Hello, Dr. Kate Dow here, and I'm going to do a little discussion about authenticity. It's my experience that a lot of us know the word but don't really exactly know what it means. And I think that's the case because also we don't necessarily know how do we know when we're really authentic and clear in who we are. So much of our lives as human beings is growing up in a situation where we have to put on these false parts of us in order to survive, in order to be what our family needs or wants or expects us to be. And it can take years just to clear out all of that uh, survival patterning that we've sort of patched on top of us in order to feel safe, in order to feel enough in that dynamic. That this idea of like, who am I, can be pretty disconcerting, right? Especially I hear in my teenagers, right? Like, well, how do I know who I am? And I said that's part of the unfolding, right? It's an exploration because you're always going to be recognizing where maybe you've picked up a belief system, a way of communicating or perceiving the world that is no longer really true for you. And what does that mean? It means that we can learn a lot of different things that may or may not really align with our true self, what feels right. It's almost like I think our best bet to have a sense of what is true for us or what's authentic for us is really when we're present in the body. That's why I do so much more embodiment work with people. It's why I find that that is the place that we can really begin to have a sense of what does feel true for us, because the mind is so easily um, tricked by ourself, right? Confused, caught up in, oh, is that the right belief? Should I be thinking that way or should I be feeling that way? And it's a place that is very difficult in our thinking mind to know what's true. Our witness in sense of self, right? That sort of observer part of us, which really is, in a sense, our soma, our connection of awareness in our body, really is a part of us that much more easily can identify if something feels right. So when we talk about, I felt it in my gut, right? I felt it in my gut that that was just so right on for me, what that person just talked about. Or we feel it in our gut when something feels a little off, a little iffy. And we could say that's the gut brain, but it's also more an awareness in our body as a whole. And in many traditions, the concept that our body is more connected to our sense of our soul, of who we are, more than our mind, really resonates for me. The more that I've studied it, the more I've delved into it and practiced it, I realize that my body and my awareness has always been the most powerful part of me, where I could feel what people were feeling from far away. And I could just feel it. It's like I had little antennas on my skin and I could tell and feel things about where people were at very young, very young. So I'm recognizing that this is what they're talking about, is this body wisdom that allows us, when we really start to listen to it and cultivate that awareness, we can really know when we not only hear something that aligns with us, but we can start to hear when we are being false, when we're saying something that is no longer true for us, but it's a habit, right? Now, as a very long time people pleaser, that was a big thing. Like I would say, yes, that's fine, when I really didn't mean that, right? Or I would say no to something when I really meant yes, because for whatever reason, I was afraid to say yes. So the more I became embodied and connected in myself by spending time knowing myself, right? Going inside and exploring and feeling and being present, the more I started to hear that, and I could hear myself saying it right when I'm saying it and be like, that's not true for you, Kate. That's not true for you. Why, what's that about? And then very lovingly give myself permission to go back and change that response, or just notice and really be curious about why I wasn't able to be authentic and what was in the way of me being authentic. And I think it's especially hard when we're in intimate relationships, right? Personal, intimate relationships are where we can really get stuck between, well, I'm trying to be this for this person, but this is really who I am, right? Like we feel like we can only show our acceptable parts. And so we really want to like hide our shadow, hide the parts we don't like. And that's where we can really, I know myself would get stuck a lot, not being authentic, right? Because I wanted to please that person because I was afraid they weren't going to love me or whatever the situation was. And so this idea of authenticity is that you start where you are, and eventually you become a little more fearless, a little more courageous to say, I'm going to just say my truth, whether this person likes it or not, right? And that comes with time. But initially, we're not going to know what our truth is. If we're really an overthinker, we're going to be really wondering, what does that mean to be authentic? And so hopefully this little mini course has been helpful for you to just recognize that everybody has this journey to walk, to let go of what really isn't us, the beliefs and patterns and habits of our families that aren't really fitting, the things we pick up from our peers, from our teachers, from our relationships that no longer really serve us. It's a constant recognition of what is really no longer aligned for us and what are we ready to be more open to that is. Okay? So if you have any questions or comments or anything you want to add, please do underneath the video, and let's keep this conversation going, because it's really fabulous and gorgeous once you realize you get to be you and you know that is, and it's super exciting and freeing, incredibly freeing. And I really wish that for each of you. All right, be in touch.